ready to go. What's up? Welcome to a new episode of Movie Schmovie. This is episode number 440. My name is Steve. I'm one of the co-hosts of the show. And as always, I'm joined by...
Gracias. My name is Ronald James.
Lady, I've been a doctor for 24 years. And John. John.
Yeah, I'm looking for the background. There's no fun.
There's no fun background.
Yeah, okay.
It's very clinical.
Very clear. Okay. Oh, this is like post-surgery. It's very
No,
sterile.
actually, though, I do have a background because I did want to bring something up that relates to our last episode. Listeners, I kind of put listeners on the case. I said, go back and listen to our Animals Schmanimals episode from way back in the day, because I don't know why I had written down West as one of Ronald's picks. Because I had Wishbone, that he had picked Wishbone, the dog, as one of his favorite animal picks. But I had West next to that. And I was like, why, what, West? What animal is that? And I couldn't think about it. But then as soon as we finished recording, because I think we thought my penmanship was the problem, but it really was just my memory. Because the reason why I had written West down was because, Ronald, you had specifically called out the cowboy version of Wishbone as one that you really liked. And I was just thinking I wanted if any listeners did go back and listen and they found that out, then I just wanted them to know, yes, there was a reason, and it wasn't that there was another animal named West that I just didn't understand why I had written that down. It was that I didn't remember you had called out. But was this a particularly did you watch this one a lot or something, the cowboy episode, or what was it about this get up that stuck in your memory so much?
The hat.
How they got that hat to stay on there?
Yeah, his snarkiness, his unusually cruel snarkiness in this episode. I just think that.
Oh, really? What was he tacky about life in the Old West?
Yeah, man, he's very curt with people that gave him problems as he was investigating in this small dusty town.
Was that his normal attitude? Like I don't know.
No,
I don't know much about Wishbone. Was he affable?
Yeah, he's pretty.
Sounds like we need a Wishbone episode.
Right, he's pretty personable, man. For some reason, in this episode, he's very like
he's very out of character.
Yeah, very cut the crap and tell me what the deal is. Kind of attitude about it.
Maybe it's because it's like in the Old West, it's like Deadwood. You've got to kind of you've got to be more harsh, Well, Steve, you were saying, you know how you get a Wishbone episode. That's the power of required viewing on this show. Is that we get to do that if we really want to make each other watch something. But anyway.
This is true.
So this is Western Wishbone. It would be fun to do it would be fun to do stuff that we loved as kids. Not so much stuff that we now think is a good kids movie, that's a classic film, or a movie that we think is great for everybody and it happens to be good for kids, but like things that we only really loved when we were kids. Do you know what I mean? It would be kind of maybe fun to make each other watch a round of those one time. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Actual shit made for kids.
Yep. I'm down. I'm down for that.
Well, speaking of required viewing,
yeah.
Ronald, you picked Emilia Perez.
Yes. Can you imagine if a French director were to take on Mexican culture and not have any Mexicans in the movie? Look no further, folks. Emilia Perez is that movie. Man, what a strange... I won't say no people of Mexican descent, but not very many.
It's just a weird choice in 2025 or 2024 or 2023, whenever this movie was made. But it's a weird choice to make nowadays. I mean, it's like whatever that ends up being, that mix of authenticity and lack of authenticity. I don't know what you call it. People used to act like it was, right nowadays that's a hot button topic, right? The idea of what's a meritocracy and what is hiring people. But I think this idea that, and I think you mentioned it in our last episode, that when you named this pick, or 2 episodes ago, is that idea that this director had said, well, there just weren't any Mexican actors that were right for these parts, or even suggesting
he said
enough
good
for these roles.
He said
that's
good
like
enough.
That's that whole crux of that old bigoted argument that in recent years we've tried to strip away. So it's very shocking to hear someone say it.
Speaking of bigoted, we can get to bigoted down the line.
Yeah, right.
So the plot of this movie is a cartel gangster hires
the titular Emilia Perez.
But
prior to.
Had a different name though, right?
Manitas.
So Benitez hires a lawyer to help with a plan of getting a assignment change, but also help uproot her life and get rid of her wife and fake her death and do quite a few things, all while doing regular work. And just like doing the lawyer doing a regular job, and also pursuing a surgeon, a place for Emilia's family to live, and also being threatened every couple days via gunpoint. So
Yeah, it's a lot for her to take on, right? It's like
Yeah.
the premise is there's this opening number where you learn what a corrupt place she's working or a corrupt
yeah.
job she has, and how she just knows she's getting guilty people off or
Yeah.
whatever. She's a defender, right? I mean, she was
Yes. But this is how they say that
people
she's poor. Bushy eyebrows and dirty shoes. She's gorgeous.
And
But
like
she has-
kind of just pulled back hair, not like her hair's not done.
I'm so I don't know how to talk about this without sounding like a dick, because we're not saying that people who have messy eyebrows or don't wear makeup look rough. But we've talked about this before on the show. I think it was Eva Mendes in some movie where she was really like dressed down as like a waitress who's got a rough life. And they always go overboard making these glamorous actresses, like when they're just normal women, it's like they look rough, or I don't know. I just think but it's you can't really talk about it without sounding like you're making some statement that you're not. But it is a very like melodramatic choice to make, to say,
for sure.
she's not glammed up for this role. She's she's like the opposite of glammed up. So it's it's an interesting thing. I guess we can get right into this. Zoe Saldana is not the issue with this movie. I don't think
this
that,
time around. So
right.
So that's
right. Surprise, surprise.
So what happened? So what happened is everybody's offenses kind of came out through this movie. So
go down the list. Let's talk about it.
So imagine a world where someone wearing blackface in a film to portray Nina Simone isn't the worst thing that you could have done in a film. The titular character.
Let's be clear. We're not talking about someone doing that in this film. We're talking about what Zoe Saldana did in the Nina Simone, which was not just the blackface. It was the makeup. Everything about that was
nose,
off.
bigger lips. Like it was like all these choices. Yeah. And then the titular character, Emilia Perez, and I don't want to mispronounce the name. I need some help with. Carla Sofia Gascon.
Gascon.
Yes, Gascon. People this is a weird thing. People, believe it or not, people just want to know what your opinions are in the world. So they go to your Twitter and look no further than 2020, when for some reason Carla went on a rampage. Muslims in Spain called George Floyd a monkey.
Must have gotten some of that Roseanne Barr Ambien, right?
Yeah. Then talked about the Black Lives Matter movement and referred to it as referred to the lady that started Black Lives Matter as ugly. Look, it is
it's crazy.
Those are just the top of the craziness, and apparently they got weirder and more racist. But she apparently does not like Muslims in Spain at all, and there's some purity talk in a lot of the tweets. And so Netflix's reaction was swift, and they decided, to stop really putting Carla at the forefront of a movie that she led.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, stop funding her travel to these events to promote this stuff. And the reason being is, it would appear if they did this that they would endorse her actions, and they chose not to. And she has since apologized, and the apology doesn't feel quite as good as it could have felt. Like it feels like it's like.
Do they ever? Have any of
No.
these people heard what an apology sounds like?
No. No, it's like, I'm sorry you feel like that.
Oh, you just say, I mean, say sorry and back away. When in doubt,
Yeah,
just do
yeah.
that. You know, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I do think it's weird that we don't like to hear people's explanations anymore. I still want to hear the explanation. I would still want to give an explanation.
For sure.
But I think those are almost like two separate statements or something. Or
Yes.
maybe, I don't know. I don't know how to do it gracefully, but I know some
Right.
people manage to do it gracefully and other people trip up on it. And the
there's-
best way to trip up on it is to, like you said, apologize that people were offended, or apologize that you didn't realize it wasn't the right time, or whatever. Apologize for anything but your own behavior, and
Yes.
then you kind of missed the mark. Yeah.
There's a guy, Bad Bunny. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yes.
He has a new album out that talks about the preservation of culture without shitting on another culture, without demeaning other cultures, and just talking about the preservation of it and the love of it. And I think there's a version of talking about your culture that doesn't involve slandering another. And I think that Carla doesn't get that, or didn't get the way that Twitter works, because especially black people, especially look, this is the thing, man. There's a lot of Afrocentricity that comes with Mexican culture, believe it or not. A lot of people don't know that. And especially with the lack of consideration that happened with the casting, there were a lot of Mexican Americans and black people that went back to see, these how the director talks and how some of the people talk, because the talk around the casting got weird. It's like there was a lot of like, well, it is what it is talk when it came to the casting, which led people to kind of figure like, where there's smoke, there's probably fire, and we got a fucking forest fire worth of tweets. It's like it's disgraceful.
Well, and this is also happening around the time that this film is getting not record number of nominations, but a very high number of nominations. And so like that's part of the story too, right? That like right when all this other stuff is happening is when this movie's being touted. Again, if you care about the awards, but obviously that's how a lot of these conversations are framed. That's the reason why this movie's being talked about right now, is because it's award season.
Yes. So what I wanted to do was take this movie, try to watch this as unbiased as I can, and take this as a film and see if should this be getting all the nominations that it has, and B, could it win any of these things? And see, why the fuck is this movie in particular being targeted as one to be kind of touted as the movie of all movies, when it seems like critics aren't feeling the same way collectively? That's strange.
It's all very strange.
So the movie itself, though, what are we talking about with the movie before you start talking about the awards? And
hell yeah,
talk about the controversy. But like, what did you think of the movie? Like, let's try to focus on the film first.
I gotta be honest, it was solid for me. I didn't hate it. It was, but there's no fucking way on God's green earth that this should ever be put in anything resembling a big award like this, big award show like this. There's this should be mentioned in like, man, what's a good Netflix movie? Emilia Perez. This should not have been nominated for, and I'm not just saying that because of all the controversy. I'm just saying quality of film, quality of writing. It's a fun movie. It's a fun movie with some, I don't know who, this felt like this came out 25 years ago, maybe 30 years ago. But the script got made like it just got shot.
Fun's an interesting adjective.
I mean,
by the way, I was getting ready to say, when you were saying let's look at this movie, let's like give a critical eye to this movie, I was getting ready to say let's get Sheriff Wishbone in on this. And so I don't want people to wonder why I just threw that graphic up there while you were talking about this movie. I switched it around so he'd be facing the other way so I can sit my proper way. No, but I do think all of this is really interesting because the quality of the movie, it is an interesting kind of, there's something. Like, I think fun's the wrong word for it for me, Steve, too. I think bold is a good word for it in some ways, but it's also like melodramatic in ways that are
melodramatic.
Like very
that
cheesy
was fun for me.
In some moments. Well, I was going to say, is this movie kind of campy? Like, is this camp?
That's what was funny to me. I mean, like, penis or vagina being sang, man. Come on, like, come
that was
on.
almost my quote, but I didn't want to seem like I was making light of that subject matter. But the way that actor kind of undersings, kind of half sings, like from penis to vagina, is like that. I mean,
penis.
but that sequence is the one that people are pointing to, saying this is the movie that's been nominated for all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I do think there's a weird thing, and I really would like to get into this very topic. I feel like there's too many topics to get into. Maybe it's good that we don't have too much to talk about this week, because this movie has a lot of little topics built into it.
Yeah, it does.
Is this movie trying to do the sort of amateur not singing thing, or is it just sort of not great in the musical side?
It's just
because
not
it
good.
felt to me like it was doing, but do you know what I mean? It felt to me like it was doing that thing of like acting where talking turns into singing, and it was trying to do something kind of deliberately theatrical with that stuff. But it also felt kind of bad. Like, I think there's a good version of what I just described. Like,
oh yeah,
a great example is that conversation between her and the doctor. Like, the idea of that they start talking and it turns into a kind of song where they sing back and forth. That could have been like a great scene, you know? And it just wasn't. And I feel like there were so many moments where the musical sequence, the idea behind it, I was like, oh, this feels like it really could be a great musical sequence. But the song, I mean, I'll say this: so many of the songs, the melody was like da 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 da, and it's like you hit two notes. You hit two notes. I don't know. And you barely hit them. I don't know. I'm not normally this critical of that aspect of something like this. Like, I kind of like amateur, rough around the edges musical singing. But I felt like this was like, these songs felt like they just didn't feel very well developed. And the way that the dialogue kind of goes into and out of the songs, it made them start to feel sort of like, why is this even a musical? When arguably the best stuff the movie does is when it does move into a slightly more dramatic final stretch where things are actually happening and there's like a thriller vibe to the sort of crime and comeuppance story, and the musical part almost takes a side. It's almost not as important to that part of the movie, and that's where I was the most invested. But like, Selena Gomez has this song in her bedroom that was just almost unwatchable for me.
Yeah.
Hey, like, Nikki was coming through while I was watching this movie, and at that moment I almost wanted to say, Nikki, this scene, I want you to know the movie's not great, but this scene is making you think it must be unwatchable. But I did find at moments myself thinking, like, just the way this movie was made felt almost unwatchable to me. Like, the way that it's put together is like, it has a lot of qualities of movies that rub me the wrong way, just stylistically.
Yeah.
Even though I do think the story, as you were getting at, Ronald, the story is very dramatic and compelling.
Yeah, for sure.
There's aspects of that character that are oddly mirrored by the behavior of the actress, because it's like this idea that just because you're living your truth doesn't mean you're beyond reproach. Doesn't mean that you don't have some shit to work out.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
it's
for sure.
the theme of the movie, but it's weird to see the actor live it out like this.
Couple things. Lin-Manuel Miranda, I've shit on you for a long time, sir. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, man. I think you make shitty rap singing.
You don't like his hippity hop, Ron?
No, fuck no, man. Fuck no. But I take it back. I'm sorry. He is doing something that is high quality, right? And then you go see a thing like Emilia Perez, and you're like, Benitez.
Okay, did you watch it with subtitles?
Yes, I did.
Okay, did you sometimes only know it was a song because it had
Yeah,
music notes
the
next
notes
to
on
the
it.
subtitle?
Yes.
Otherwise, it was just like, is the score kicking in a little bit here? Is that supposed to be in a rhythm? Does that rhyme?
I thought it was just like, because there was like Benitez had like a charisma, right? And so did Emilia. So sometimes when
the
they
performance is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of hate about this whole conversation is that, like, I thought there were some moments for that.
Yeah.
For that
So what I thought was there was like a rhythmic. You know, sometimes you can talk rhythmically. You just be like, you know, I don't like this person or this person or this person or this person or this person. Fuck this person. You know, but
you're talking about that first conversation where there's a long kind of monologue and it's whispered, and it sounds like maybe it's in rhythm, but it's not.
It's not. And then the point where Benitez is alone that I think a very similar thing has happened. And then for the son, but China, it's Swedish. I'm like, oh my God, this is like a real thing. Look, I'm so. This is what makes me mad. We shit all over the foreign press, right? About the bias that they have and all of the strange foreign films that they choose. Foreign press makes up for it and has arguably one of the better years that they've had in a long time. And then we shit the bed. The American, we shit the bed, and we nominate this movie collectively as this group of actors and directors and people on staff, and completely lose the focus of what this should be, which is like diversity, not just diversity in like women and black people and others, Asian, but diversity.
I love that. That was fantastic. Great list.
But diversity in tones, in films, and in subject matters. I'm just saying, like, what happened? What happened this year? Why was this the movie? Why was this the movie?
Okay, so yeah, don't you think it's got to be the subject matter and like the feel that it's about something, even though I don't think the movie really tackles those things? Don't you think it has the veneer of being like about things or being current or something?
I mean, I guess so.
Yeah, or do you think Netflix just also has a lobbying effort behind this movie?
I think also like the Cannes performance that it had, the fact that there was like, this big bidding war. I think it's, it carried buzz out of the festival season back in, the early summer, and Netflix picking it up and, apparently among other studios. But I think also like the director has, a bit of a buzz around behind him, and also the cast, like, not that, I don't know. I really feel like it is one of the films that really kind of carried over from Cannes, and it's that kind of momentum that a film can carry from some of these festivals.
Yeah.
I do think like some of it's is the subject matter, maybe some of the it is a unique film, so maybe the
very much so
uniqueness of it. It's very different from any other film in the festival. I mean, in the awards. The award shows, the conversations, the nominations, all that stuff, it does stand out.
Yeah.
So if there is a body behind it that's really kind of like loving it, and there clearly is, it kind of lets it stand out because of all the reasons that we talked about a bit. I did want to ask you, like, I think overall, like, this movie's like, it was like fine to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I don't think it's like, I think that some of the worst stuff of it is the musical stuff.
Yeah,
and
totally. I probably understand why it was a musical.
And I think I was like curious, like if the music wasn't there, I probably would have enjoyed it more.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I would have probably taken it more as like that melodramatic type of pseudo thriller kind of thing at times. And like you both have said, like the performances, Zoe and Carla, like they're actually pretty good. They're really good performances, actually.
Yeah.
That kind of get marred down.
It's an intriguing relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like right. The sort of business, sort of not relationship between the characters. If it was a little bit more of a straight drama, I think that could have been.
That's kind of how I feel. Like I feel like and it probably would allow the performances to be even better as a whole as they are right now.
Yeah. The dinner scene also was over the top.
It's just
she's talking. She's like, "What?"
Like the song with was it? I can't, what was the song called with Jesse and Gustavo? What was that song that they were singing?
Like the karaoke style.
Yeah, like is it the Mi Camino or something like that? I forget which one it was, but that one was like, what the?
And it went on forever.
What is it? Yeah, it was like 4 minutes long or something, and I'm just like,
she's like a pop artist.
I know.
Yes.
There's no coincidence to the fact that she's the one that's kind of left out of the entire conversation too. Yeah. I actually didn't think she was good in the movie personally.
Oh,
like, I did not.
She was okay in the in the dramatic stuff, like later in the movie, there's some stuff that happens that I felt like she was okay, but I do think she was doing like a heightened kind of acting. Like there's one of the most cringy scenes in the movie is that one where she's having the little monologue and she's talking to Gustavo on the phone, and then she turns and looks at the camera.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, what the
yeah.
fuck? But I felt like it was full of what you were just saying, Steve. Here's the thing: it would breathe more if it was more of a straight story, because
Sure.
because there were so many scenes where you just cut to somebody and they like wake up in bed and they look over and they cry and then it fades out. Like there were so many moments that totally felt like soap opera scenes like that, where you're just checking in on like the melodrama. And it and I think there is real drama in this story. There's a lot. I mean, it's an intriguing notion, honestly, that setup, the idea of someone changing their gender assignment to possibly because they have this thing going on inside them that they want to express, but also just for this expedient reason, and then seeing what that does to their family and what faking your death does to your family, and then like missing the kids. All that was that's really fertile stuff and an interesting story. I'd be interested to know what made the decision to make it a musical. Like when did that, how early in the development of this story, because I think it's based on a novel, you know, so it's kind of a leap to say it needs to be a musical, but it's not the outside of what they do when they're not on camera. It's not what the actors are doing in this film that is the issue with it. So
did he have got some consultation on some of the women's dialogue? Let me give you a line of dialogue. Hello, I miss you so much, my pussy hurts.
That's what I was just talking about. It was, I believe it's that has been happening since we met or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, whoa.
Or when I think about you, this happened. Yeah, whatever. But that's the moment where she then looks at the camera, Ronald.
Oh,
she stops.
And now I have to go back and watch that part. What the hell was that? Look, but the thing is, I could really understand if you were at Cannes and you were in a room and this movie was playing in front of a big audience and you're all into it, how this movie could feel a little more like valid than it really is. And
that's kind of what I mean about the way it deals with issues and themes. Yeah. I don't think it actually does, but you're right. It might get some credit just for touching on those things.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's such a the problem is it's such a shallow look at these things that it feels so boomer, not like the way that a person that's supposed to be forward thinking in the 50s would be about it, just very, I don't know, man, just not, it's not forward thinking enough. Mm-hmm. It's like somebody thinks they are and they're like, you know what, trans. Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what I mean, I don't want to be cynical, but I wonder if the reason why this movie is even really being talked about it in this way is because it does have that aspect to it that's very, again, that handling of that subject matter, the movie is kind of refreshingly frank about some interesting things that you don't normally see get addressed. And even that musical sequence, it's kind of laughable. Like, I do like the way that it makes you, it just comes right out and says things, you know what I mean, about what's happening. But the movie's not really about that. And I actually think the way the movie, I don't know that the movie has anything to say about transitioning that's very valuable, because I feel like there's some ways in which Emilia's story is the sort of cartoon nightmare version of transitioning, where you abandon your family and, you know what I mean? You do all these these brutal uprooting things that, I mean, I know trans people that have not done those things. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Transitioning does not mean abandoning your family, I guess is what I'm saying. And this movie, therefore, kind of seems to suggest that, I don't know, that's a huge thrust behind this character. Mm-hmm. I do think it gets into some interesting, material with re-entering their lives as a different person. And I don't know how much I believe that. I kind of was trying to think that Selena Gomez was like willfully in denial about who this new person was, but later it seems like she really didn't know this was her husband. And I don't know, I find that a little hard to believe. But again, from a melodramatic standpoint, the idea that you're around your kids and they're recognizing you in weird ways, but you can't say that it's you.
Right. Yeah.
That's like a very, it's like Mrs. Doubtfire.
I was going to say Mrs. Doubtfire. Oh my God. Yes, it has some shades of Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah.
Look, I will not forgive this
I'm
movie.
sure that's offensive to make that comparison,
No,
but we're there.
there was some legitimate. I mean, just everything about this movie is unsettling. This is supposed to be in Mexico with Mexicans. Carlos from Madrid. Zoe Saldana is Puerto Rican and Dominican, and Selena Gomez is Mexican and Italian. So she is the only person who you guys say is the weakest link. So I'm two out of one say she sucked. I'm gonna believe that she sucked. I need to rewatch it, but I think I was so caught up in the rapture of this terrible movie that I kind of was like, I don't know what was good and what was bad at this point. I know that I know that I still felt some emotion at the end. Like seeing anybody get hurt always makes me feel strange. It's like even if it's in a bad movie. So some of the movie played out really made me uncomfortable. And I like the idea of redemption. Like people can be terrible people and redeem themselves. But there is like if you haven't settled everything, that past will come back. I do love that idea. But couldn't have been in a worse movie. Couldn't have been in a worse movie.
So that's Emilia Perez, which is on Netflix and nominated for 13 Oscars.
Yeah.
What did you think, Sheriff Wishbone?
What's the story, Wishbone?
Wishbone makes some good points. Always.
Always. So
Has a way of kind of putting things, underlining things, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. Steve is your pick, man. What's our
I'm going real simple right now because this is a movie I didn't get to see in theaters and I wanted to. I was traveling when it came out, so I think it just came on digital this week. One of them days. I've heard great things about it. It's gotten great reviews. It made for its budget. It did incredibly well at the box office. I love Keke Palmer. And I'm really excited to watch a really good buddy comedy, which I've heard it's that and more. So
yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and pick something bright and funny and exciting, and it's not a musical either. So it's called One of Them Days with again Keke Palmer, SZA. Who else is Cat Williams is in it? Mon Apatow. Who else? Lil Rel Howery's in it. I don't know. It's a great cast. But I've heard very positive things, and I can't wait to check it out. So, cool. And that was, you can find that on like the digital platforms. It's either yesterday it came out, or I think it comes out Tuesday digital. But it's also still in theaters. But I have it. There's not many show times anymore where I'm at. So, one of them days.
One of them.
Yeah, I was trying to get out to see a movie this week, but then the weather kind of came in and changed my plans. So I don't even have a real sense of what's in theaters right now. All I know is that I think there's an MCU movie coming out on the day that this podcast comes out. Is that right?
Yes, there is. Yeah.
So I don't know. We talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but I do think it's kind of an interesting time. We've just seen a bunch of trailers for stuff. Like we just got a trailer for Thunderbolts, a new trailer for that, that I think actually makes that look even more like it might be a movie in ways that the Captain America Brave New World trailers were never quite able to make it look like a movie.
Right.
And then there was the Fantastic Four trailer that came out, and you can see it got a lot of people talking and some people really excited about what that take might look like. And I was thinking about James Gunn in recent interviews about the Superman thing, talking about how as much as they have all these plans, if Superman doesn't perform well, he said they won't just keep making movies. They're not just going to make a bunch of DC movies just because they can. So I don't know. I guess I kind of thought it would be fun to just hear your thoughts, Ronald, Steve, about like what does this moment mean, and like what do you feel like about the prospects of? I know we've talked about. I think we're all sort of on board for James Gunn's Superman. But in terms of like the zeitgeist grabbing people's attention, what do you think about this kind of important moment? I mean, I think we've said this many times about these movies, but these franchises, there's no guarantee that these things are just going to keep getting made. What do you think about the kind of chances? And do you get a little charge from seeing some of these recent trailers? You know, maybe give me some quick thoughts about, you know, Thunderbolts and the Fantastic Four, the looks we got at those movies.
Steve, I want you to go first. I'm very curious.
I mean, honestly, like I don't think that any of them have really made me that excited. You know, even when we talked about like the Superman trailer when that came out on our text thread, like I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to see this. It looks good, but like it did not knock me out. I feel like the fatigue of the whole, you know, comic book movie thing is definitely set in, and it's a very real thing.
It's
I'm
still
very
a
curious,
thing, right?
How,
Like time hasn't changed that, right?
how Captain America does this weekend. And not only this weekend, like, you know, the whole numbers for it week over week, because I mean, you know, that matters a lot out of like just curiosity versus, you know, people seeking it out. But yeah, like Fantastic Four, I thought looked cool. I mean, you know, Thunderbolt, I would say probably honestly, and it really doesn't surprise me a ton, but like I felt like the Thunderbolts trailer like had the most energy to it.
Yeah.
You know, like it kind of, that's the one that probably made me, like you said, John, like be like, oh, actually, this looks really kind of fun and cool and could be really good. Mainly because I like all those people that are in that movie, and as excited as I am about, you know, Fantastic Four, I felt like the trailer was like, you know, more of a teaser than a trailer. I know that's
Definitely.
probably what it officially was, but it didn't really have a whole lot besides showing us, you know, our cast, a little bit of the world in that time, but. Maybe a full trailer for any of these would maybe make me more excited, but I would say across the board, I'm just kind of like,
Yeah.
not lukewarm, but just mildly cool. You know, they look good. Nothing like
Right. It's like a wait and see attitude.
For context, like these movies, the trailers for these kinds of films, you know, whatever, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, like would be the thing I would just not stop talking about. You know, but the quality feels and the excitement around it, the writing, just like across the board, it's kind of like suffered. And I think other things are getting my attention more. Other trailers are getting my attention more, like the new Mission trailer, like the new Jurassic World trailer, like, you know, things that just look not so much different, but they just look like they're doing something more exciting.
I don't know what it is about the Jurassic World trailer, because I didn't really love any of the recent Jurassic World movies. I liked aspects of them.
Right.
But I think that new movie looks fun as hell.
It does.
It looks like it's getting
really
back
does.
something I love about the people versus dinosaurs thing. I don't know if it's just like they moved the camera down and we're getting more low angle shots, or if it's like I don't know what it is, but there's it's Gareth Edwards, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, here's a person who can put together some imagery and some sense of scale and scope. It just felt like it was like adventure, and I don't know. I know people were down on it because it doesn't look like it's bringing anything wildly new narratively to the series. But there's something about just the competence of what was there and the imagery. I was ready. I mean, I was like, okay, yeah, I was much more excited about this than I had been the last few, you know, just from the trailers and stuff.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with you in the sense that I think that like Fantastic Four was a great teaser for a movie that looks fun, but I don't feel like I don't feel like it was a trailer that felt like a great trailer for something. I think what they did with that was sell you on the design of the thing being like an appealing comics accurate look. And I think overall that trailer tried to say, look, we're being comics accurate, but we're still being something kind of different. But like the way the Human Torch looked when he took off and into the sky was very comic booky. That version of the thing, this is the first time we've seen him with the kind of cartoony brow, but still a face. And I think it was very important to connect it to the actor. You know what I mean? There were so many things about that trailer that felt like they were saying, see, we've kind of nailed the thing. We've kind of nailed the Human Torch. We're not showing you what Stretchy Man looks like yet because that could be silly, and we want to make sure we've got it right. We're not showing you Silver Surfer yet. We want to surprise you, but we are going to show you Galactus. It just felt very tactical and smart.
Yes.
But it did not feel like a great work of the trailer art in that sense that some trailers can really make you feel like you saw something that was really cleverly put together. This was a nicely made, kind of almost old-fashioned teaser for a movie that feels like it might be kind of old-fashioned. What about you, Ronald? What is your assessment of all this?
I knew this was going to happen. I predicted this once they got into magic. But this is the space and stuff like that.
I don't know. You say that, but I don't know if that bears out with the budget. But I'm saying the movies have been doing fine.
I have a very good friend that called me and said, "Hey man, I remember when you said this on the podcast. His name is Pierre Benu. He remembers it. What happened? No, you guys."
What?
Oh no! What happened?
No, you froze up.
I froze up. Okay,
but you froze up in the funniest moment of like
so
smugness.
weird.
You were holding your phone and going.
My friend Pierre Benu texted me and said, "I remember when you said that. When you said that about space and how it would get weird. I knew this was going to happen, and this is the only reason why. I think because we've seen a style of movie, adjusting to that can be very hard. And look, the Endgame. I think we need to stop saying that Endgame and all that stuff was the great. All right, that happened many years ago. At this point, many moons have passed. No, it's happening again.
It's them again.
What the?
I mean, maybe his side is recording his side, so when he puts his episode out,
it always happens.
You froze up. You froze up.
Yeah, it never looks like that when we.
Yeah, but I think the reason whenever you talk about predicting this. Whenever you talk about predicting this, though, I feel like we've always had mutually this conversation about what's going to be the thing that makes it tilt. What's going to be the thing? I think it has much more to do with like a lack of, but I don't think it's the magic because like people still were on board after Doctor Strange. People were still on board.
They were not on board. They were not on board.
What are you talking about?
Multiverse of Madness made almost $1 billion.
Multiverse
you can't tell me they weren't on board.
Ant-Man.
Even the worst,
Ant-Man.
like
Ant-Man's not magic,
but also even the most hated one made almost $500 million.
That was all
isn't that
magic.
Science?
No, magic.
Oh, it's magic. Ant-Man is magic.
Yeah. What was that shit coming out of his hands? Out of Kang's hands.
But here's the thing I agree with you about. I think it's. I love
how
there's a moment
I love how he's freezing. I love how he's freezing.
hate this.
I need this footage.
Yeah.
I need. It's like.
Ronald, we have to see your local footage because it's going to be different from what we're doing.
I know it's going to look so weird.
But I want to say I don't disagree with you in this sense. I think that I always, as a fan of comic books, I always thought what's going to be too comic booky for people? Like what's going to be the point where people just say, this is an ongoing thing that's not going to stop.
Yeah.
And if they had a plan of stopping after Endgame, that would have been like a beautiful trick to pull off as far as a franchise.
For sure.
But the fact that it's supposed to keep going. It got into this middle stretch. Like, what was that phase that just ended? They're calling it the multiverse saga, but it didn't feel like a saga. Ronald's frozen again. All right, sorry. I think we agree about this more than it sounds like. I think it's just the way you're calling it magic, and I'm calling it like narrative.
Oh, for sure.
Just like there's people got superhero movie fatigue, but I think people just get tired of the sense of, oh wait, so none of this really matters because it kind of keeps going.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay,
and also 10 years is a long time for any genre to dominate.
I'll tell you what I mean by that. It's like I'm a wrestling fan. I've when people say they liked the Attitude Era and they don't watch wrestling anymore, you don't watch wrestling anymore. It's like that with comic
I think they said that though in your scenario there.
But what I mean is like when people say like I'm a comic book fan, I like comic book. You don't. You liked the camaraderie that came along with this watching these films. I think there's like a thing. Hello? Why is my shit going so? This is fucking crazy. Nothing shit.
Yeah, it's like every 15 seconds you're freezing.
Yeah. I'm checking my speed. It's like,
is someone streaming something from your Plex?
You're telling Kevin Feige's doing this. He doesn't like the truth. He doesn't like the truth you're spitting.
It says like 60. Okay. So what I mean by that is like there was a point. There's like casual movie watchers, right? Casual MCU fans. I think that's fine, man. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But again, like you said, we're getting into the more nerdy stuff, space and magic and all that. I'm telling you, once you get to space, You lose people, man. That's fucking nerdy. And not like I like Wolverine nerdy. Like it's nerdy, man. People don't want to hear that shit. It's like it happened again.
People can't handle space, is what he meant to say.
Oh, it happened again. Why is this happening?
It did. But when you cut out, I just continued the thought for you. I like just
But
went.
this is gonna be
no one
great.
can tell. No one
It's
can
going to
tell.
be great for viewers because they can. What you're recording is going to be different than what we're getting, so people can actually listen to a show and watch a show to see what you were saying.
Right. To see what the hell is going on.
No, but honestly, I think that like it's a great point to make about like what are people willing to get on board for? Like what are people willing to? I always used to think about the sort of middle of the road bro that was like interested in Captain America and wanted to see what happened with Thanos in the snap. And then I was like, is that person going to be like, oh,
Yes.
I'm really into this Kang storyline. And I've been watching the Disney Plus series. And it's like, I don't think that person wanted to watch WandaVision and then wanted to watch Falcon and the
Yeah.
Winter Soldier and then wanted to watch all these movies that have been kind of all over the place in terms of
Oh, it happened again.
if not the shows. And Ronald, you're frozen again.
Yeah, that was my whole wrestling argument, right? Like there's a fan that liked the Attitude Era, and that was the Attitude Era. It wasn't it wasn't wrestling as a whole. It was like very specifically raunchy, very specifically made for teenagers our age, very specifically made for. So if you like that era, there's nothing wrong with liking that era, but that is just that era. You don't like the whole thing. You like that one slice of it. And I think we're getting into that part where like if you're on for this ride of new characters of because everybody keeps saying the same thing. Why is there Captain America there? Why is there Iron Man? There's new people. There's new people in comic books. There's new people in TV shows. There's new people. We need new people. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's all. New people. And I know I froze from the 80th time.
You did, but you're making such a good point. I really wish we had all of your audio.
You'll have it. You'll have
his
it.
end, we'll have it.
You have it all together.
Yeah, you can. That's true. We'll have
in the mix.
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the main thing too is there's a movie coming out in today
Yes.
that is like that has like almost no buzz, almost no hype, and the reviews that are coming out are what you would expect from a middling to low Marvel effort.
Coming out in
I don't know.
February.
Yeah,
I'm
Like,
okay with that.
I mean, I'm fine with all that. I just think it's weird that this movie got retooled so much and like.
Yeah.
And like, it sounds like they kind of defanged the story in some ways, just based on like trying not to make it catching the brunt of a lot of the worst tendencies of the MCU kind of machine, I think.
Yeah.
Like this is the one that really feels like, and I feel like that happened to the Marvels too. You saw that movie and it felt like, oh, this movie has been gutted down to,
Definitely.
its foundation, in order to like minimize loss or minimize the whatever people's impatience with it or something. And hearing that this movie with all the stuff it supposedly has in it is less than 2 hours, I'm glad it's less than 2 hours, but it does make me think, oh, they probably hacked it down.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited to see whatever it is, but I'm not really excited to see the movie itself because I don't think any of the trailers ever sold me a movie. They sold me like a couple of cool images, some scenes that look kind of fun. It's nothing against Anthony Mackie in the role, but don't you think it's a little bit odd, Ronald, that at the end of Endgame, Steve hands him the shield, right?
Yeah.
And so we have had a whole miniseries in between and a new movie. And people are still talking about it like, here's the movie where we're finally going to see him accept the role and arrive. And it's like, I feel like he was Captain America when Steve handed him the shield.
Yeah.
It just feels like they've been doing a lot of like easing towards this moment that to me, it seems like the best way to make us buy this character as Captain America would have been just to get us a Captain America story sooner that wasn't about whether he could be Captain America. Just put him in, I don't know. It just feels like a weird thing that this many years later, we're still having the storyline is like, but is he up to the job? It's like, yeah, I think most of us bought it.
Yeah.
in the first moment. I don't know.
Yeah, it's still strange, man. That movie happened so many years ago. Like
Yeah.
You're right. Cap handed him that shield in like what 2019?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
2019, and we're still talking. You're right. We're still talking like he's just like I don't know if I can handle I don't know. It's hard being a black man and being a Captain America.
Right.
Look,
Can a black man be Captain America? And it's like it's fiction. So yes, but also, why are we asking that question like it's such a? I mean, again, I get that it is sadly a question for a lot of people, I guess,
for
but
sure.
it shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be a whole movie. I don't think that's built to deal with that question.
Especially if the whole show tackled that already.
Right. I think the thing that the show led to that I thought was more interesting is the question of what does a black man feel about representing America, with all its flaws and stuff. And I feel like maybe there's traces of that in there, but I don't know. And also, have you noticed people jumping all over that statement he made, which was really pretty innocuous, where he said that he just doesn't think that, basically he kind of said what I just said, that as a black man, it's weird to think of standing for America, but I think that he stands for a lot of things that are like part of the American ideal or whatever. And people jumped all over him like he said Captain America doesn't like America or something. I don't know. I think that these movies are now to the point where you could see an Anthony Mackie saying, I'm kind of tired of this shit. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that's a bad thing. I think that's a bad thing. I think that's what's going to be the worst part of it, is just that it's not going to be a fun ride for the people that sign on for them like it used to be.
It feels like they're really trying to do this Rememberries thing after Thunderbolts. I think after Thunderbolts and after Fantastic Four, I think they're really trying to get the Remember Berries back, and they're trying to like remember Phase Two, remember Iron Man, or at least the actor. Remember these. I just feel like they're trying to do that, and I think they could do a version of that has some new people in it. But it feels like they really are trying to reach back and grab some people and bring them forward. And I think that could work. But if they lean on it too much, you could lose more people, I think. And that's what I'm worried about. I think that Robert Downey Jr. by himself is a force, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if it feels too forced, it'll make people feel really weird. People knowing they're being manipulated. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We like good manipulation, like on your left. That's like you're referencing something that we've seen a couple times, versus you just putting a person in a role that you never would have imagined, or how are we going to expect? I don't know. I'm just a little worried about that portion of it. But Thunderbolts is the one that I'm looking forward to more than Fantastic Four. But I think that this is the first time that we've gotten a teaser for a movie. Fantastic Four felt like a teaser. Like, this is just a small fraction of what you're going to get. No excitement here. The excitement will come when it unfolds in 2 or 3 months. We get the new trailer or whatever. But I never thought I'd be saying to you that Thunderbolts would be the one that I'm like salivating over. It feels fun. It feels like, there's no Guardians, so we're getting this like group of misfits, and everybody seems to have. There's a chemistry in this that I haven't seen in any other movies. That it was only really replicated in Guardians. Like Guardians is the only movie that I saw that had this sort of camaraderie that I'm seeing in.
Right. It feels like actors that look like they're getting a chance to bounce off of each other, and just the idea that Bucky is the head of this team, like that gives you an idea of the character of this team, that he's like the Steve Rogers of this team. And he's, with all his flaws, he's there. David Harbour looks like he's having a blast. You can tell Florence Pugh, whether she's happy to be there, you can tell they're happy to have her. And I'm happy to see my namesake character, John Walker. I just think it's hilarious that when everybody's name comes up on the screen, his name, like his superhero name, is John Walker. So he's out there representing. I hope he gets at least. I don't think a redemption is in the cards for him, but I think he's at least a funny, seemingly likable presence in this film. So that'll be an improvement over the miniseries. No, I think that we're a sucker for it. I said to Nikki when that trailer came out that like It's like, I'm so big on slow horses right now, like the loser spies. The idea of like the losers Avengers, I'm there for it. Like and the fact that they're even in the commercial saying all we do is shoot and punch people. That is kind of the fun about this kind of team. Yeah. And it could be, I don't think they're going to kill everybody, but they could. Like, this is the kind of movie where there's no load bearing legacy.
Yeah, like the asterisk there, the asterisk in the name is also interesting.
Like, what does that mean? Does it mean at the end of this movie they're going to be like this world's Avengers and we're going to know they're doomed when like the next big Avengers movie hits because we know they're not going to be the team in that. Like, I don't know. I do like the idea of them having characters that they can actually play with. Right. And even though it's not a perfect setup, I kind of feel like Daniel Bruhl should be in there somewhere if we're bringing back villains to be, in a fun film like this. But yeah, it looks like it has like a Shane Black kind of energy in addition to that James Gunn energy. Like it looks like it's got like ultra violence but with character. So yeah, it does seem kind of fun. And I think the coolest thing about the Fantastic Four movie, we haven't mentioned it from the trailer, is just I do think the sort of retro styling of the world and the fact that they're celebrities in the world. There's some fun stuff to play with that we haven't quite seen in one of these movies yet. I just think that's fun. Like, as far as a teaser, those are things we also get a hint of, is the sort of like the way they're different from the heroes we've seen before. So yeah, I'm optimistic in the sense that I think this stuff's going to be fun to watch, but I don't know that I'm not optimistic in the sense that I don't think it will ever be the topic du jour the way that it was.
No. I mean, they were hitting us on all cylinders at that point. Like, I feel like they were really trying to invest in good stories, big moments, and I don't know. I don't know what's happening now, but it doesn't feel like the same energy is being spent on this. And I don't know if that's just because Disney is spinning 80 plates at this point, right?
Yeah,
like
too many
I feel
things.
like they've had so many acquisitions and trying to make the Star Wars stuff good, and they're doing so much now. I feel like they should just get back to making individually good movies, and I'm hoping that if this one is, serviceable, I'm good with a serviceable movie. And then the next one will be better. The next one will be better. I'm good with that. I'm good with an ascension and the Rotten Tomatoes score from movie to movie.
We survived Thor: Dark World. We can get through anything.
I punch air when I think about that movie every time
I feel bad picking on that movie, but I do think it's the one that when I think back on it has the least to offer me in terms of my memory of the movie itself,
But comparatively now?
Oh yeah. No,
it's a masterpiece.
It's a real movie, right? No. Well, we'll come back to this in a few months after we've seen a couple of these movies, but yes, there was once a time, listeners, where we thought there was enough Marvel stuff coming out that we needed a second series, and it was a YouTube exclusive series called Marvel Schmarvel, and I think we covered most of 2 seasons of those Marvel shows when they started coming out, and then we realized we weren't up to it every week.
I remember Steve saying it, and I was aghast. I was like, "What?
I just
what do
remember
you mean?
Was it like midway into Falcon and the Winter Soldier that it was like, we can't do this every week. We don't have enough to say about these episodes.
It sounded so negative. It sounded so negative at first. I'm like, what's this negative Nancy talking about canceling this show? He was right.
but it's still a fun little curiosity. You could probably hear our excitement ebb and flow over the course of talking about that show.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting times.
Interesting times. It was that much of I guess that is the point. It was that much of a massive franchise that like we wanted to offload all of our topics that had to do with Marvel to a separate show because it was taking over the Movie Schmovie show.
All talks.
Yeah.
Jesus, man.
Much like it has this podcast.
Well, it was a revisiting. It was a revisiting. We got back to it. What else has everyone watched before we?
It'll be funny at the end of the year if like any of the comic book the 3 Marvel films or Superman, if those 4 movies don't end up in the top box office performances, that's a pretty dark alert right there that best efforts are not cutting it, especially Superman. I mean, because that's a whole start over already.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
But what else?
Yeah, I was saying, what else have you guys watched in the last? When Ron and I were talking before we started recording, like I haven't watched really any movies in the last week besides our required viewing pick, which I squeezed in. But it's been nothing but TV for me.
I'm just caught up on Mythic Quest and
I was saying Mythic Quest, yeah,
and Severance. I'm caught up on those two.
Still not caught up on Severance. I'm still one behind.
Damn.
I know.
Yeah, I'm caught up on Severance. Yeah, Steve.
Are you thought up on Severance?
Thought up on Severance?
I am thought up on it, but
you thought up on it?
So
Steve.
This is a spoiler for you, but it's not really. Ronald, you know that instrument that she was playing on...
the theremin?
This is a theremin. This is the type. This is what Miss Huang was playing by the fire in that.
Oh, okay.
Theremin.
Gotcha.
I thought it was good theremin representation. I heard the sound, and they said so he'll be playing a theremin, and I was like, I wonder if they're going to actually have a theremin or if they're going to use a theremin, which is like the new kind of. It's just a different sort of thing. And it was, and then I felt cool that I had the same instrument that they decided was cool looking enough to be on Severance, which is a very visually cool show.
Cool show, yeah.
Man,
Steve, you got to get caught up so we can have like a real conversation about this show. Yeah,
this is one of those ones. This latest.
Oh yeah.
This is like we're gonna be talking about this one for a while. Sort of episode.
Well, or if the season keeps doing this, Ronald, don't you think we're going to be talking about how this show is moving through story faster than we thought, but also in a different way than we would have thought?
Yeah.
Things happen for characters that you thought might have taken a whole season for us to get to, and also the different characters are the catalyst for it. Like I did not expect. There's two characters in this most recent episode who are involved in something that I wouldn't have put those two characters in that scenario together.
Yeah,
you know, so it's amazing. What a show! What a show! But Mythic Quest, Steve, you're caught up on that. I thought that murder mystery episode was really fun.
Awesome. Yeah, like 2 minutes into it, I was like, I'm gonna love this episode.
I was too. I made Nikki come in there.
The vibes were there, man.
Well, she doesn't even watch the show, and I just gave her a quick rundown of like, okay, he's this, she's that, so she could enjoy it because I could tell it was a fun bottle episode. They do well with those on that show.
Yeah, I was so happy. Like, I feel like, you know, this was one of the ones, I don't know if we talked about it on the pod or in different conversation. Like, I was just reading an article at the end of the year, early January, like, where's the 4th season of Mythic Quest? Yeah. And then all of a sudden it was like a little bit of marketing and it's like, oh, it's out. It's like, it's available. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I know, you know, when they announced the 3rd and 4th season, they like kind of shot them pretty much back to back or relatively in succession. And yeah, it was weird that like it just kind of came out of nowhere, but it was a very happy surprise to say, oh, wow, one of my like favorite comedies is back. Yeah, because I love this show. I love everybody in the show. And I think this is the kind of show that I could just keep watching if they figure out a way to keep it going. I don't know that it'll go past season 4, but I hope it does because I genuinely love this show.
Well, you mentioned the cast, Steve. I just wanted to say there was a moment in this last episode or a shared storyline between Danny Pudi's character and David Hornsby's character. And like, I was just watching those two actors together thinking like, oh, they are now in that zone for me of like the same pleasure I get when I watch a show like Hacks or a show like Only Murders in the Building, where you're just watching like experts at like sitcom comedy deliver lines back and forth at each other, and those scenes between, is it Brad, is that Danny Pudi's character?
Yeah, Brad and David,
their little back and forth about him being fun Dave and him, you know, Brad's always manipulating somebody and he's so evil. Like I have my Troy and Abed in the morning mug. I now look at this mug and Abed's smile, I'm like, is that Brad trying to manipulate me? Yeah, or is that a sincere smile from Abed? I just think, these are great comic actors, and to say nothing of Rob McElhenney and what he does with Ian, that is so like not at all what he's doing on It's Always Sunny, but it's a similar, he brings a similar sort of like almost innocence to narcissistic character that is really interesting. And then what's her name who plays Poppy? She's fantastic. She's like a total
Charlotte Nicato, I think.
I get Liz Lemon energy from her sometimes. The way they allow her to be like gross, you know, the way that she's like, her hygiene's bad and she eats garbage and she
gets out of her Porsche in the garage. She's like, yeah, are you living out of that? Like, I know, I just don't know how to drive it. It's like covered in dust and she like changed her clothes or changed her underwear or something, whatever.
Like a person who has money but doesn't really know what to do with it and like lives her life sitting at a desk. I don't know. It's just really funny, well-observed character, and she's great.
It's great.
So Ronald, Yeah, what have you been
Yeah,
watching?
what you got, Ronald? What do you
What
want
have
to
I
throw in
been
there?
watching? I watched Nickel Boys.
How was that?
It is. It's a painful movie, but it's beautiful. It's shot really uniquely, man, in a first person view.
Right.
Just
So I read that.
really rough, man. Like it feels like those are your memories. You know what I mean? Or you start thinking in memories. You know, you start thinking in these like sort of 5 minute segments like, man, what was I doing when I was this age? You know, what were some traumatic things I remember from this age? You know, it's one of those things. It's a heavy subject. And watching it unfold in that view is crazy, crazy. It's really emotional, but I think it's gonna win something. At least cinematography, man. It's shot in such a unique way. I've never seen a whole movie done in a first person perspective that way,
Mhm.
without it being like an action movie. I've seen action movies done that way, but yeah, I absolutely suggest it. Uh, just don't expect to be super happy at the end of it. Uh, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I've told you about it last week. Do not sleep on this fucking
No, I
show.
intend to watch it also. I have
Watch
not
it.
yet.
Okay. Two medical dramas. No, not two. One medical drama, one medical comedy. St. Denis Medical is so fucking funny.
Yeah,
Uh
it's funny. I think I have both of these on my list too. So you say that one, and I'll say the next one
oh, we know
because I
what
know
it
what it
is.
is.
Ooh,
The Pit.
the pit.
Yeah,
Now, normally,
I've
when you
like,
say that, you're
This
referring
sh-
to Brad Pitt, Steve.
this
yeah, right, right.
show,
You wish, right?
I throw my fucking hat off right now. It's so good.
This show is incredible. Like
It's so
this is the surprise of the year for me. Not that I'm surprised, but
yeah.
this is the thing that I put on at midnight. I start watching the first episode. Next thing I know, it's 3 in the morning.
Yes.
I could not stop watching it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, hold on, back up 1 second. So yeah, St. Denis Medical, great sitcom, workplace comedy, docu,
Yeah.
mockumentary kind of
Documentary.
thing from the guy that did what is it, Superstore? I think he also worked on The Office.
Yeah,
But
Superstars is a beast.
yeah, Wendy McLendon Covey's like one of the leads in it, and Allison Tolman,
David
David
Allen
Allen
Greer.
Greer,
Oh, David
yeah,
Allen
Josh
Greer.
Lawson.
Josh Lawson's so
Yeah,
good.
just a really, really, really funny workplace comedy. My buddy turned me on to this a couple weeks ago, or maybe a month ago at this point, but I finally caught up on it, and it's now the one Aaron and I are watching it weekly,
Yeah, yeah.
and very, very funny show.
Yes. And one last show I want to talk about. If you're not watching this show, you're fucking sleeping. And that is Paradise.
I haven't started
Paradise.
it. I've the way I know a show has like transcended is when my mom asks me, like, "Hey, how can I watch this show?" And I'm like, "Oh
Too
wow,
much.
Hulu has a hit if my mom knows about it."
And what Hulu did was so smart. You know what they did? They played the pilot episode on TV,
Mm-hmm.
which got everybody's attention.
I think so. You're right.
And then they
Yep.
said, not on regular TV, it's on Hulu.
Yep.
And it's just kind of sweeping me off my goddamn feet. And I think
Woo!
some of it has to do with the fact that it you think it's one thing,
Yeah.
and then you see it's another thing, and then it's not that. It's like the picture just keeps getting zoomed in a little more. And this is Sterling K. Brown's show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that it's been kind of sold as him and I mean what's his
Marston.
name? Yeah,
James
James
Marston.
Marsden. James Marsden is in it. Don't get me wrong. He's in a ton of it. But this is Sterling K. Brown's show. And you see it more and more as the story unravels. But James Marsden is so good in this show. Um
Yeah.
I don't want to give anything away. Don't read about it. Just see it because it'll give you an idea of some of what it is. I think if somebody gives you an elevator pitch of this show, you've heard too much. So you should just take it in, watch it, read as little as possible because it really is a treat to watch this thing unpack the way that it does. It's really good storytelling. Because
Yeah.
somebody texted me after the first episode, like, "Oh, I figured it out. I knew." I'm like, keep watching it, asshole.
Oh no.
Keep watching it, asshole. It unfolds into something else.
How does someone do
How
that?
did
in
my mom
text?
get your number?
But how does someone do that in text, Ronald? How does someone go in a text?
Because they use all caps.
That's
Asshole.
what that sounds like.
And then it does the wibbly wobbly thing. Wibbly wobbly slam. You know what I'm talking about? Wibbly wobbly slam. I figured it out. Wibbly wobbly. The stuff you can do on iOS 18 with the slam.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're right.
The burst of the boob.
Right, yeah.
And this person did wibbly wobbly slam. So I was there.
Got it.
Yeah.
I gotta check Paradise out. Yeah, I gotta catch. I think my mom actually did start it. We'll have to.
That's
get
so
her on
cool
the
that
show.
your mom is like, "Hey, I'm up on the show and you need to watch it."
No,
Steve."
she's like very in on
That's so
watching
cool.
stuff. Like we
I
talk
love
about TV and movies. Like, what should I watch? I'm just like, check this or that out. But this was one like where I'd heard about the show,
Yeah.
hadn't started it, but that was like it's kind of when my little alert went. I was like, oh wow, this show is like existing outside of streaming. Like it did the thing you described, but the marketing for it, whatever, the word of mouth, the reviews, like people being on shows, like talk shows that she watches.
Yeah.
Something about it got her, and she was like, "Oh yeah, how do I watch this?"
There's something about James Marsden and Sterling K. Brown's scenes too. It's like I need to see more of them talking to each other. It's like they have such a bond in this show. It's like, oh, I can watch a buddy cop movie with these guys. I can watch a.
Yeah, they're both great.
Oh God, it's chemistry.
I want to just go back one. We moved around a little too quick because I don't want to like miss this Pitt conversation real quick.
Yes.
Just to say, like, my awareness of this was like I remember reading an article like where there's like a lawsuit against Noah Wiley and like the show's creators about like this was allegedly possibly going to be like this became or came from what was to be like an ER spinoff. But it's like they basically have argued that it's not that at all. Like it's not whatever. That's how my awareness of it came.
Okay.
But in watching it, it's not an ER spinoff at all. Like it doesn't, and not only because it's on Max, that it can do things that maybe ER couldn't do. It's in the same world in a sense of like a medical drama, like you described it. But and yes, Noah Wiley is in this as a different character, but the idea of this show being where like basically each episode, I think it's going to be a 15 episode season or 16 episode season, is an hour of real time in a Pittsburgh trauma ER. And, how quickly you get introduced to all these different characters, attending physicians, residents, students, the patients, the hospital administration, things like that. The pacing of the show is so kinetic and so like frantic almost that, I think that's its like secret weapon. Like the fact that it jumps from case to case, from conversation to conversation. You see character actors popping up as like, characters in the ER, patients in the ER, parents of, relatives of, which is really exciting to like recognize a lot of faces from other things that they may just be in it for like an episode or two. But I think 6 episodes of this show are out currently, and I just devoured them. Like I could not stop watching the show.
So good.
It is, and like most medical dramas, and especially on a streaming service, like as a warning, there are scenes that are really hard to watch. If you're a little queasy or don't handle, the human body, like blood, things like that. There are moments, and this is why I can't watch the show with Erin, because she cannot handle that. Even the subject matter she can't handle, like conversations you hear them having with patients, like where something did not go well, or there's very bleak outlook. She just can't do this. So if that's not your thing, there's a lot of that in this show. So just to say that up front. But again, like I mentioned before, so far this year, this has been like the surprise find for me.
Yeah.
So I had no doubt that it would be good. It's from a lot of people that were involved with ER, with West Wing, things like that. But I just really like Noah Wiley. It reminded me how much I like him as an actor, especially in a serial kind of thing like this. But yeah, I'm loving this show so far. Like I've been telling everybody about the Pitt, again, which is on HBO Max.
So good. And then what's really cool is like there's these like little subplots. You may see two people talking to each other. You're like, why the fuck are they talking to each other like that? and then it pays off like 3 episodes later. You're like, oh, that's why they talk to each other like that. It's so fucking good.
The one guy I wanted to ask you, now that I know you watched it, the one resident, is he not like Sebastian Stan's like younger brother? Do you know who I'm talking about? For a hot second, I was like, I did not know he was in this show.
Yeah.
But then like a moment later, I'm like, okay, it's clearly a different actor, but it's crazy how much he looks like
something very similar. And I was like, I don't know if he looks like him. But then I keep seeing him, like, it is him. I'm like, why would he be in this? Why would he, without us knowing? Yeah, he looks a lot like him, and I really enjoy him a lot. He has the same face and everything. It's same shaped face.
Yeah, man, it's kind of crazy. What like I don't know, just
he might be related to
back to our Marvel talk. Yeah, I had to bring it back.
But it was good, man. It's a really good show. I think you like it. I think you like it a lot, John.
Steve shared something that we should mention. That's great casting news. Linda Cardellini if she's
Linda Cardellini
gets involved in the Crystal Lake.
Oh yeah.
So is this thing really taking off now? We
don't know. Sounds like it. I mean, it sounds like they're moving ahead without Brian Fuller, but yeah, we don't know what the show is now. I mean, I'm still interested because I'm interested in what they might do with it, but I have to say, a prequel series about Crystal Lake isn't as interesting to me as just a Crystal Lake series would be.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the angle is. I think this is exactly what we said before. Is like without his take that seemed like it was the driving force behind the show. I don't know what the angle is. So, but she's a person that makes me confident. She usually does.
Yeah, she tends to do quality stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of seeing this casting and feeling good about it. I feel like she read a script or something.
Well, she's in talks, so yeah, maybe
or heard a pitch that sounded strong enough that she felt like she could put her name on it. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's pretty damn good.
She does seem like she'd fit into that nicely too. That world.
Yes,
yeah,
like she's got a look.
Well, she seems like she would fit in great in a sort of a Brian Fuller sort of world. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be interested to know how much of his whatever stylistic angle that show was supposed to have is still going to be part of it, or if they've just completely ditched it. Because there were supposedly some really cool things planned for that show. Anyway, we've covered that already.
That's all I got, man. That's I just been devouring a lot of TV, but we'll see what this weekend brings. Maybe beyond John, I know you're seeing the new Cat film. Hopefully, maybe I can check it out. Or actually, Sydney really wants to see Paddington 3, so I may have to go see that. Which I'm also excited. Also excited for. Like that's not a bad thing at all. Like
no, I'm interested.
I'm a fan of the Paddington. I think that's it, guys. That's an episode.
When you start to lose your voice, that's a good time.
You guys gotta clear it out, man.
All right.
So as a reminder, one of them days was my pick for required viewing next week. Should have done my due diligence as we were talking on this episode to confirm the.
It's out.
Okay, I thought I couldn't remember if it was this week or next week.
Yeah, it's out and it's on all the PVOD services.
Perfect.
So
okay, great.
You cannot miss it.
Didn't want to mislead anybody. And if you watch it in theaters, you just come along and listen to us talk about it because you already saw it before me. So good job. Movieschmovie.com is the website. You can go there to listen to past episodes or subscribe to the episode or to the podcast or whatever podcast platform you prefer. And we also have YouTube. So youtube.com/Movie Schmovie podcast if you want the visual element where you'll see Ronald freeze multiple times in the video and like you can kind of try to guess when that hits. I don't know what it was about that run.
Right. I think it's his passion that did it.
Yeah. I think your energy he was putting into that mic just like went up into the computer and was like, whoa, slow down, fella.
Take it easy.
Slow down, fella.
It was too much righteous fury, Ronald.
Yes.
In fact, you should check out the paperwork that came with your mic will probably tell you what the proper righteous fury levels are.
And just to know you exceeded them.
Yeah, right. You did.
Right.
You were
too righteous. We can confirm.
Only so much fury per grant.
You know, it's that you know what it is? It's not you. You got a boost from something. Pierre texted you to say that you were right, and that gave you Such like that was like a
power
power
up.
up. You know, like in a
It's
video
a power
game.
up. Yeah.
So we don't want to know what would happen if Pierre were to text me.
We got to
saying,
get him for another screening too,
Pierre,
man.
you've got to text me if I'm ever right about something.
Yeah.
If you're listening, please
I
text me.
think he will. And I'll tell him to start doing it.
Just to listen. Or he just text you when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And then you're like, don't tell him. But text me when
Can't
I'm
give
right.
him that power.
Right?
His reaction to Nosferatu was so good. Like I loved it so much.
It was fun watching that with him and Lauren.
Yeah.
We'll have to all go to the next werewolf. You know, his next
Werewolf, yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good tradition.
Werewolf.
Yeah.
Nice tradition. We're starting there.
That's the Eggers gang.
But yeah, back to the YouTube. If you want to watch the video option, you can subscribe there. Hit the bell to get alerts when we put new footage up there, whether it's the full episode or the short clips that come out as well. It's just, you know, little bite-size snippets of the episodes. That's there if you want that. But thank you so much for listening. And as always, you made our day. Thanks.
Bye.